All right, I got to talk about this for a few minutes today. And I want to tell you this much, right? These sanctuary cities, their mayors, they're losing their minds, seriously, because, behind these fictitious banners of compassion and these fictitious banners of justice, these sanctuary cities and their mayors, I think, are inadvertently fueling this national movement that threatens law, it threatens order, and the very idea of national borders. That's not a hyperbole, by the way, guys. This is happening because Boston's latest move against federal immigration enforcement, this is more than just a political gesture. They are literally, let's say, this is like a rally cry for radicals who don't just want to reform ICE, they want to abolish ICE. If they don't want law and order, they want to become law and order. And so does the radical left. They're literally creating more chaos throughout this country. And I feel as though this is being incited by these sanctuary cities, these mayors not condemning the violence that is actually happening. Okay? They want a monopoly on what they perceive to be law and order, not what law and order actually is. So, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, she just gave a speech. I just tried to watch the damn thing. I had to put it at 2x speed. I barely got through it, to be honest with you. And the way she's talking, it sounds like it came straight from one of these protests or one of these rallies. She denounced ICE as a rogue agency. She cast immigration enforcement as a civil rights violation, and they even signed an executive order demanding more transparency from federal officers operating in the city. Well, maybe, Michelle, if you cooperated with federal officers, you wouldn't need to be filling out requests to get more transparency. You know what's going on. You know where these people are. You let them out on the street for $500 bail. Let's call it what it is. This is like beyond virtue signaling, okay? This is lighting or supplying more gasoline to a national fire. And if you look at cities like LA, like Denver, like New York, like Chicago, like Minneapolis, and like Boston itself, we've seen what happens when anti-ICE sentiment goes unchecked. And these mayors have put together this coordinated attack on ICE, which in turn is emboldening their supporters. That's what's happening. That's why they all got in after what was happening in LA, not condemning what's happening and just rallying up the people that don't need to be rallied anymore, right? That's what it is. It's ridiculous. It's unbelievable. Honestly, thank God Elon Musk bought Twitter. Hate him or love him, okay? We wouldn't know what the hell is going on in this country. We would only know what the mainstream media is telling us, right? We have protesters blocking ICE facilities, but they're torching federal property and vehicles. Officers are being assaulted. They're being doxxed, and they're being driven out of communities they have been sworn to protect, all because of the rhetoric, period. End of story. And you know what? When local leaders label these men and women as secret police, what do you think that signals to the mobs that are already convinced that they are fighting a fascist regime? Really. Mayor Wu, she claims it's about protecting immigrants, but what she is doing is protecting a political narrative and enabling a movement that has increasingly turned violent. It's insane what is happening. Between the riots, the protests, the chaos, the violence, the looting. It's insane to me. It's literally organized chaos. And now Boston, they're joining the circus. That's what it is. And Wu's administration, you know this. They don't want to cooperate with ICE. And they are suing the federal government over $48 million in funding because the city refused to meet the lawful conditions that the federal government wanted, that the federal government was demanding. And here's the reality. Every detention, they're treating every detention as if ICE was operating as like the Gestapo, not a constitutionally mandated agency enforcing laws passed by Congress. They are literally gaslighting the public. Honestly, think of it this way. If this was any other president doing this, do you honestly think that we would see what is happening today? These people are like children. They are pissed off that President Trump won. They are pissed off that their absolutely absurd narratives and weird narratives are not coming out to play. That's all that it is. And the language that they're using when they're speaking, it really matters. These people are not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're saying. And more importantly, they know exactly what they shouldn't be saying. And what's happening is these radical activists, guess what? They are getting to a point where they are listening to these mayors and things are escalating, right? These protesters are escalating. It tells these illegal immigrants that the system is broken and trust is dead. So, here's some facts for you, okay? Over 90% of the arrests made by ICE, these have been people that have criminal convictions who have defied court orders, right? These aren't just random sweeps as they claim to be, right? These are not random. They are lawful detentions of people who had their day in court and they chose to ignore it. And believe me, I realize our immigration system is far from perfect. I don't think anybody could debate that. But guess what? Two wrongs don't make a right either here, okay? If we are enforcing immigration law altogether or not enforcing it, guess what we're left with? A country with open borders, no accountability, a dream for radicals, and a nightmare for, let's say, working class Americans who depend on order and safety that are just trying to go about living their lives. Think about it. There's a lot of people out there that don't know what the hell is going on, right? Not everybody is informed as we are, and God bless them for it. Honestly, sometimes it's better to be naive, right? But the problem is you have these so-called leaders painting a narrative that these cities like Boston are the safest major city because they defy ICE. But that's not a correlation, that's causation. Crime has been on the rise in major sanctuary cities and even in Boston. If, again, look at Chicago, New York, LA, all of these cities, they have pushed similar anti-ICE agendas and are struggling with surges in crime, surges in drug trafficking, surges in gun violence, and surges in human smuggling. It is what it is. Those are the statistics. They don't like statistics, though, okay? They don't like math, right? They don't like data. And really, here's the other thing that I want to tell you. I don't want to forget this. When you look at sanctuary cities, right, many of these crimes, they go unreported, not because there's less crime, but because victims are afraid or confused by this politicized landscape. They're scared, okay? They're scared. Furthermore, look at cities like Boston, where Michelle ran on being soft on crime, okay? Soft on policing. They're down by hundreds upon hundreds of police. So guess what? Less police could equal less crime reported. I could do fuzzy math too, all right? Boston's leaders say they're fighting for justice, but they're also undermining trust in law enforcement across the board. That is what's happening here. And when you tell your citizens that federal agents are villains, when you elevate anecdotal tragedies over the rule of law, and when you paint every ICE arrest as a moral crisis, you erode the very foundation of a civil society. Period. That's it. And you know what? Guess what? Look at it this way. These messages, these are spreading, okay? New York is pretty much under fire right now, okay? Abolish ICE signs. They don't stay in college campuses anymore. They are in the hands of the rioters. They are inspiring groups to organize, to protest ICE, to protest everything that is going on, to harass these agents' families, to dox government employees, this, that, and the other thing. You see this happening. And when cities like Boston applaud that this type of energy, instead of condemning the violence, the line between a protest and a riot keeps on getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Furthermore, they've supplied grants, the city of Boston, upwards of $2.1 million for these anti-ICE agendas and these anti-ICE coalitions. So you want to talk about incentives? Keep giving the resources that our taxpayers paid into and the majority of the country has paid into towards opposing what they voted for in the first place. That is what's happening. They're taking money from one hand and putting it in another that is emboldening even more radical people. Honestly, the immigration debate, this has become an absolute spectacle. But it isn't just about the politics. They are undermining public safety in cities like Boston by pretending ICE is the enemy. They're really playing this dangerous game with the lives of citizens and with the lives of legal immigrants. Even my friends, I have a ton of friends that are legal immigrants. I said this about 1,000,000 times, that are upset with what is happening. So why are they going against what the majority of the public wants? It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable to me, because look at it this way. Here's the truth. When immigration laws aren't enforced, cartels fill the gap. Human smuggling increases. Trafficking victims disappear into these like shadow economies. And the people hurt most, they're not the elites. Of course they're not. They are the struggling Americans and even recent legal immigrants trying to follow the damn rules. We need to enforce the laws that we have while working to fix, let's say, immigration and let's say immigration enforcement throughout Congress, okay? That's what needs to happen. But guess what? We're left with what we're left with. So we need to operate and follow the law. That's how a republic functions, right? That's how this nation will survive. So not only do the rioters, the looters, the violence, all of that needs to be held accountable, but the people pulling the strings should be on the hook as well, at least in my opinion. I don't know what you think. So I'll leave you with this, I guess. When Boston's mayor says the city is standing strong, you need to ask yourself, right? Who are they standing strong for? Really? Who are they standing strong for? The people trying to build better lives within the law, or the activists trying to tear it all down? Because in a time when this country is under siege from within, is so divided, we should have leaders who oppose the chaos, not leaders that are multiplying or manufacturing it. It's a huge problem, guys. It's a huge problem. I hate to say this, but what happened in LA, what's happening in New York right now, it's all going to come to our doorsteps, okay? It's going to come to our doorsteps, and it is solely coming to our doorsteps because nobody is being held accountable, okay? And nobody is enforcing the law. Laws are optional in sanctuary cities. As you know, they are completely optional. And without a voice of reason, without any voice of reason, and condemning the actions of what's happening, you're only creating a narrative that is in support of those actions without saying it directly. And that is a problem, guys. So I hope you guys could see through this veil of what is happening here, because that's the reality. All right, that's it for today's video, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.